The 27th of January, 1547, was the last full day of the reign of Henry VIII. When it became clear that he was dying, the king sent for Archbishop Cranmer, and by the time he arrived, Henry was slipping into unconsciousness. At 2 a.m. the following morning, with Cranmer by his side, the reign of Henry VIII passed into the history books. It's telling that in Henry's final hours, when he was racked by pain, he refused to see his wife and daughters and wanted to be attended only by his men. That male heir whom Henry had spent much of his life seeking ascended the throne as King Edward VI at just 9 years old. But Henry VIII's story does not end there. Buried deep in the National Archives lies a document whose contents and significance continue to be debated to this day.
This is probably one of the most controversial documents in all of Tudor history. And the reason being was that about a month before Henry VIII's death, this last will and testament was produced.
So this isn't obviously in Henry's hand. This is a secretarial.
This is a scribal hand, but then you've got Henry's signature again here at the end, and then below it, in hierarchical order, you've got all the names of the 10 witnesses who witnessed the signing of the will. Now, the controversy, though, relates to the signature here, because it is not Henry's own hand. Instead, it is a dry stamp. In other words, it's a stamp that has been impressed upon the page, and then a scribe has taken a quill and ink and very carefully written Henry's name in so that it looks absolutely perfect. Now, the problem there is that if Henry isn't signing it, what that does, that device, allows people to be able to manipulate the monarch.
The dry stamp was designed to relieve Henry of the tedium of personally signing documents. He had placed a man called William Clark in charge of the stamp. Once a month, Clark would give Henry a list of documents he had signed on the king's behalf.
Now, this will was made on the 30th of December, 1546, and it's not until the night before Henry's death that we find William Clark putting this on a list of documents that have been signed.
With the stamp, the men around Henry had the means to manipulate him to the end of his days, potentially placing themselves in positions of unrivaled power, using the king's signature, all with the aim of controlling the new young monarch. So who does best out of this among Henry's men? Because it has been seen that they're just manipulating him right at the end, kind of feathering their own nests for the next reign. There's Somerset, obviously.
Somerset, his brother Thomas Seymour. At the time of putting together this will, the Spanish ambassador argues that when Thomas Seymour's name was mentioned, Henry said, "No, no, no." And so we know that Henry was against him, but yet his name is among those of 12 assistants who are going to play a part in the minority government. And so Henry has been made to put him back in.
The Duke of Somerset was a title created by Edward Seymour, who would go on to dominate the reign of Edward VI, when he also appointed himself Lord Protector.
Protector Somerset seizes power and he manipulates the will afterwards, it seems to me, in order to try and retain power for himself.
Whether the reformist faction had indeed manipulated the king after his death is something that will continue to be debated. But if they did, it was merely the last in a long line of manipulations that Henry fell prey to throughout his life.